It's titled How the DOJ Caved to Trump's Poisonous Political Violence. David Weiss was the guy that was appointed by Donald Trump to prosecute Hunter Biden, special prosecutor. He's a Republican. He was the federal prosecutor from Delaware. And he had worked out a plea deal where Hunter Biden was going to go into rehab, and for 2 years he'd stay clean, and they would dismiss the gun charges and the tax charges against him, which is what normally is done. I mean, what Hunter Biden has been charged with is failing to check a box on a form to buy a gun that says, "I'm not taking drugs." He had the gun for 11 days. He never loaded it. He never shot it. He never used it. And his girlfriend disposed of it because she thought he was going to use it to commit suicide. That's how bad, that's the kind of bad shape he was in. So, they'd worked out this deal, and then when the terms of the deal came out, the right-wing media, Fox News, the hate machine, my colleagues on right-wing hate radio, they just went nuts. They oh my God, you're letting Hunter Biden off the hook, rah, 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 rah. And that then led to a bunch of right-wing Nazis threatening David Weiss and his family and the people who worked with him. In fact, several of them got swatted, where, you make a phony call to the police and they show up and kick in your front door. And so what did David Weiss do? He said, okay, stop attacking my family. I will indict Hunter Biden. And he did. And the death threats stopped. This is no way to run a country. This is no way to run a Justice Department. Mitt Romney said that after, back in 2020 when Donald Trump was being impeached, that several of his Republican senator colleagues said that they wanted to vote for his impeachment, but they were afraid to because they were afraid that right-wingers would come after their families. Mitt Romney pointed out that he's paying $5,000 a day for security for his family, and has ever since that vote. Again, no way to run a country. Right-wing fascist violence. I mean, this is how Hitler came to power. The brown shirts would travel around Germany, beating the crap out of people and burning people's houses down and stuff who were, opponents of the Hitler regime or Hitler's rise to power. This was in 1933. This is where we're at. There's even some suggestions that the reason that Kevin McCarthy decided to go along with impeaching Joe Biden or opening impeachment inquiries was because he was afraid. He was starting to get death threats. We now have a Republican political party that is on the one hand, responsible for the grievance politics that lead to death threats, that cause their followers to get all cranked up and hysterical and furious and start making death threats. And now those death threats are being directed at Republicans when Republicans are not sufficiently fascistic enough, or when Donald Trump tells them to. And the GOP, Donald Trump says jump, and the GOP says how high? Please don't send those right-wing crazies to my home. This is just so wrong. This is just so wrong. I mean, the charges against Hunter Biden, of course, are wrong too. You didn't check the box charge. The only time that the Washington Post was able to find anybody been charged with that was when it was a compounding charge on top of somebody bought a gun when they were an addict and then used that gun in a crime, which Hunter Biden did not do. But to have a federal prosecutor make a decision to prosecute somebody solely because his last name is Biden. Well, I shouldn't say solely. Partly because his last name is Biden, and partly because right-wing fanatics are threatening the lives of the prosecutor and his family and his colleagues. It's shocking that this is what we've come to, this cancer of violence and outrage that exists solely within the Republican Party. When was the last time you heard a death threat coming out of a liberal's mouth? I can tell you, 1970. It was the death throes of the Weather Underground. That was it. But certainly not in the modern era. The president of the FBI Agents Association, Natalie Berra, said in a statement, FBI special agents and their families should never be threatened with violence, including for doing their jobs. This is not a partisan or political issue. Calls for violence against law enforcement are unacceptable and should be condemned by all leaders. Except that it is, end of quote, except that it is a partisan issue. These threats are exclusively being made by Republican-aligned actors, by Republican-aligned fanatics, by right-wing Nazis. I mean, literally people who show up at Ron DeSantis rallies with swastikas. Political intimidation should have no place in America. The FBI has had to create a special task force. They've got 10 people now dedicated to this, just to look into threats of violence against FBI officials because right-wing hate radio and Fox News are saying, well, the FBI isn't investigating Hunter Biden enough. Specific to the Hunter Biden investigation. What does this tell us about the state of politics in America? And probably more importantly, what does this tell us about who and what the Republican Party has become? This is not good, my friends.